we're gonna see how it goes. I'm gonna see if we're able to go live on YouTube, and then okay, yes, we're live on YouTube. Perfect. Great. Nice. All right. So this is one of a kind. This is a one of a kind meeting. We're doing this for the first time ever at Coyotiv. So I'm extending my warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here today. We're going to talk about myths of software engineering, what we know about software engineering to be wrong. We have experienced software engineers, we have bootcamp graduates, we have students, we have people who want to learn software. So I think it's going to be an interesting call. For the ones watching this on YouTube, we have an event link somewhere, maybe Dennis can share. And you can sign up for this call. We plan to do this more often. We want to do this maybe weekly. We want to convert this into a weekly meeting of Coyotiv crew, all the students, our past students, our current students, our teaching staff. And we want to create this idea of a community that works together, that talks about software, that shares their experiences. And we thought, why not? Let's involve more people, and let's make this public. Let's make this open source. Let's also publish this on YouTube. Let's save a recording on YouTube. Some people in our audience were kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure if I would like to be recorded on YouTube. So full disclosure, this is being recorded on YouTube, and we're gonna make it available on YouTube afterwards for everyone to watch. Whoever is interested in watching these conversations, I believe we're gonna tackle really interesting topics. So I think it's gonna be really, worth watching. So I don't know if you don't like being recorded on Zoom or on YouTube. If you don't want this recording to be available on YouTube, you may choose not to participate. But I think this is what we're going to do for now. We did these events on Clubhouse I think we had 3 or 4 meetings on Clubhouse. It was great. It was a very safe area, and we want to keep it like that here as well. But something was missing for me, and that was basically seeing people first. I love being with people. I love seeing their faces. I love when they smile at me. And the second is there is no recording of what we talk there. We discussed really good topics in those 3 weeks on Clubhouse, or 4. I forgot actually. We discussed really good topics, and all of them are gone now. I mean, we can of course discuss all of them again, but I liked the energy that we created there, and now there's no trace of it. It's gone. It's void. So we decided to pull these back into Zoom, and maybe create a community where we can share, and where we can be newbies, and where we can enjoy being newbies. There is no shame or no difficulty in being a newbie, as long as you have the support around you. And that's what we aim to have. That's what we aim to provide, the support network for anyone who would like to start programming. All right. Ground rules number 1, I talk a lot, and you can stop me at any time. You can unmute yourself and say, Arman, it's enough. We hear you. Now let's talk about this other thing. Feel free to do this anytime you want, and change the topic. I'm not offended. It's not very easy to offend me, so feel free. You can tell if you don't like what we're talking about, and we're gonna take it as a feedback, and we're gonna try to do our best. The first meeting we said should be about myths in software engineering, and the Coyotiv team prepared a couple of myths of software engineering. common mistakes about or misrepresentations of software engineers and software engineering. And of course, doing these things at home is a terrible idea because you cannot time Amazon deliveries. Unfortunately, fortunately, I'm not alone. Okay, all right. So anyway, maybe we can do a very quick round of introduction. Would you like to do that? And then we can start talking about the topic.
Yeah, sure. I'm Houston. I have other problems here as well. Some other kind of delivery from 3 years ago. I'm Houston. I'm a software engineer at Braid Health. It's a US-based company. I'm working from Turkey. Yeah, Neslihan, how about you?
Hi, I'm Neslihan, and I'm not a linguistic student anymore. I always start like I'm a linguistic student in Boğaziçi University, but no. I am a almost graduate of Coyotiv's cohort 4, and I am a junior software engineer candidate. Yeah, that's all about me. So
you need to pick someone else.
Oh, okay. So, Özgecan, how about you?
So I am a linguistic student still in Boğaziçi, and I also work at Coyotiv as an assistant. And let's pick someone. Alina, how about you?
It was so short from your side. So I'm Alina. I'm not a software developer. I'm in quality assurance. Was the first. I was the student in the first Coyotiv bootcamp. Yeah, and I'm working. I was switching in the last 4 months. I'm working in the second company. Arman doesn't know. I'm not anymore with Flow, like he was naming Flow for slow. So I'm with actual super fast company. Yeah, because I didn't.
How is it going so far?
Yeah, and yeah, it's like not hell, but it's what I was looking for. So yeah, in short. So I will name the next to be Ruth.
Hi guys, I'm Ruth. I am taking the course right now, Creative School for Software Engineering. I have an artistic background and I'm super excited to be taking this course. It's something I've been really interested in. And so I'm really trying it out and I'm hoping to make a career change, but I'm really starting from scratch. And so I'm really enjoying it so far. My brain is melting most of the time, but yeah, I'm really excited to be taking this course and trying it out. So it's really fun starting something like with no experience whatsoever. Yeah.
I think we're very experienced in brain melts, and you now need to name someone else.
Okay, Denise.
Hello, everybody. I'm Deniz. I work for Coyotiv as a marketing specialist, kind of. Actually, I'm a journalist and I work for an history magazine, but it's my part-time job that I like more. Happy to meet you, and maybe I can hear from Furkan.
Okay, sure. Hi, I'm Furkan. I'm working as a software engineer at Coyotiv, also a part-time teaching assistant at the school part. I am I'm still a self-taught engineer. My background was civil engineering. So in the past, I took some time to learn it alone. Then I found Arman and its environment. And after that, I participated to Coyotiv. And yeah, it's been a year now. That's it.
What a year. And you need to name someone.
Oh, I name, okay, Hasan Burak.
Hi everyone. I'm a civil engineering student in Boğaziçi University. I'm here because my girlfriend Özgecan asked me to. I like coding and I have a little interest. I have a little information and big interest in Python, and that's all. And I
Nice.
name Aziz.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Aziz. I graduated from university in 2015, and I have 6 years experience. And I see your video, Arman, in the YouTube. It's very inspireful video. And I find your website and I find this meetup. Yeah,
Thanks,
I am
welcome.
here because of that.
That's great to have you here as well.
Thank
And
you.
I think we have Rahil, is that correct?
Sorry?
Hi. We
Yes,
have Rahil
hi.
as the last person. Hi, how are you doing?
Good. I imagined a much bigger group. I thought I can sort of hide between people, but no. I actually have no background in software engineering. I am working as a kind of a social worker, but I really want career change, and I am considering software engineering. And I came across this meeting, I think on a social media. I don't remember which one now, maybe Instagram. And I thought, hey, this is cool, a cool start. So I just joined.
Perfect. You know, life sometimes gives you this magical moments, these like really inspiring moments out of a millionth chance or something. And I think this is one of those, because today we're going to talk about the most common misrepresentations of software engineers and software engineering. And most of the people here apparently have at least some exposure to software. Maybe Deniz is, you know, a little bit away from actual coding. And Rahil, you are the person who can help us today with these representations. You can tell us how you see software engineering, and we can tell you.
I haven't looked at it that way.
Yeah, see, this is why I said this is one of those magical moments. And we can tell you what we feel like, or what the reality is from our perspective, and you know, how it seems or how it looks and how it actually is. We can make that contrasting picture, and I think it's going to be really fun for the next 40 minutes or so. Perfect. Now, as I said, like we gathered a couple of common myths, and I would love to go over some of them. They're really funny, and I'm going to ask, you know, we can make a spectrum. What you think as a complete outsider, and what you think of this myth as a, you know, software engineer for 20 years. I think we can build that spectrum, and that will be a fun activity. But before we do that, Rahil, would you maybe like to start? I want to give you the microphone. Like, the first question, the first myth should come from you. If you're interested in software engineering, ask. It's free zone. Shoot.
I studied a lot of mathematics in high school. I graduated with a mathematics diploma, and what the impression was always this is one, I don't know, myth or whatever, that software engineering has a lot to do with math, and you have to be really good in mathematics to be a good programmer or whatever direction in software. So that's my first.
Perfect. I assure you, this is not a staged call. I'm seeing Rahel for the first time in my life. I've never seen her before.
I approve this.
This is not staged at all, but we couldn't find a better myth to start, because this is something that's interesting to me. I'm not going to give away my position on this yet, because we're going to start with the least experienced, and we're going to go to the most experienced to talk about different interpretations of this. But yeah, this is something I'm thinking about for a very, very long time. So thank you for coming up with this. This wasn't even on my list because it was so good. I think we couldn't find that better start. That's great. So Deniz, what do you think about math versus coding?
As a social scientist?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a common misconception, I think so too.
Oh, is it a misconception?
Isn't it?
I don't know. What do you feel like? Do you think programming is heavily related to math? It would require math knowledge. You would do better if you knew math.
Yeah, my feeling about it, because I'm the least experienced, as you say, my feeling about it, it's like it's more about a way of thinking. Like if you think through algorithms, if you see a concept and if you can imagine it as a system, maybe.
Interesting.
Even if you are not that good at math, you can learn it and you can be good at it.
Okay. All right. Good. Next up, Ruth. I think you are the next up in this line. Please tell us about your experiences.
Well, I think that the only people who I knew, and I don't know if I knew anyone in person who was doing this coding before. Perhaps I've only seen like what's represented on TV or in movies, and it's often like a really nerdy guy sitting in a dark room, and has no life. And then, a couple of people I knew got into it, and I'm like, okay, there's, all guys as well. And so, yeah, I think that's perhaps one of the myths. It's like you have to be sitting in a dark room by yourself for hours on end. Maybe that's true, I don't know.
But now that you started learning, you said you're not coming from a science background like math or physics, right? But you have started and you are learning programming.
Yeah.
So
I am.
How do you do with math? Are you good at math?
I was average in school. It was not my favorite subject. But yeah, I've learned to appreciate that you need it, and like the concepts can really help, like in getting data and creating concepts, that kind of thing. So I've become much more interested in it. So I guess my interest in coding has grown. It wasn't something perhaps I would have chosen like a few years ago.
Okay. Next up is Neslihan, I guess.
Yeah, probably. Okay. So
what do you think?
As a linguistics major, like a linguistics graduate, I represent the opposite end of the spectrum, where you have math in one end and language in other end, and I'm in the other end, like in the language end, and I didn't feel any problems in coding or in software engineering that is related to lack of math knowledge or being under being less capable in math compared to an computer science major maybe, but yeah, I don't feel anything bad about it. Like I don't need any math to build my app in Coyotiv. So I think I won't ever need it if I won't do any calculations, like hard calculations for machine learning or any related thing. Other than that, I don't think so. Like math isn't an obstacle to be a software engineering, I guess, because I already created my app without my current math knowledge. So it's the proof.
Okay. Is Alina with us? I cannot see her. I think she's muted and turned off her camera. By the way, my internet connection is shaky. So
I don't know if you are seeing me, but
yeah.
also I have problem with the internet. You can hear me?
Yes.
No.
Kind of. I think it's Berlin. Berlin internet today sucks for whatever reason.
Maybe we can switch the person and I can come later with an answer.
All right. Next, Furkan.
Oh, okay. So what I think is
math is necessary.
Math is definitely necessary in certain situations. If you are working at Intel, NVIDIA, if you are doing some matrix computations, yes, it is necessary, I would say. But that makes the not majority, but minority. If you are working as a web developer, behind the scenes, definitely some math going on, but they are implemented for you, and you don't necessarily need to know. That's the thing we call abstraction. So we just call the methods, and they work for us behind the scenes.
Okay. Nice. Thank you. Next up is Üstün. He's working at a company that works with huge amounts of data and huge amounts. What is your experience? And do you think math is relevant to what you're doing?
So we do some AI at the company, although I haven't gone into that section of the code base yet that much. So there definitely some level of math is needed. But I would agree with the others, and especially Furkan, like it depends, right? And that's another myth, like nothing is easy, nothing is straightforward in software engineering. So maybe we could talk about that myth also. So it kind of depends. But of course, you know, if you are good at math, I would say, then there's a higher probability that you can be good at programming. But that applies to some other areas as well. Like if you are good at linguistics, for example, then you would certainly make a good programmer. So being good at something, right? Like, for example, most of the books are like recipes, right? They are cookbooks. So I imagine if you are a good cook, right, you would probably be a pretty good programmer. For example,
nice.
when Apple...
there are some people who would like to hear this. We have a couple of cooks in the audience.
Yeah, so for example, when Apple was first founded, I think they got some people with liberal arts degrees, and they were one of their most successful programmers at the time, or maybe poets, I don't know, artists, right? So it depends, but Yeah, and then of course this also, there's the other side. How much of the math we learn is meaningful, right?
Yep. Yep.
For example, analysis, derivatives, integration, is it that important right now given computers? Like with computers and their, I don't know, summation possibilities, linear algebra is becoming more important. But if you go to an engineering, they still focus more on analysis rather than linear algebra. So that's another thing, even discussed in engineering, not only in computer science or software. So yeah, but still, I mean, the other side, if you are good at math, you can probably do it pretty easily as well. So that's a fact too, I think.
All right. So here's my perspective. I hope you can hear and see me, and I'm very sorry for the internet connection. I don't know what's wrong. It should have worked. We shouldn't have any problems, but apparently there's a disconnect between Berlin and the rest of the world right now. So I think a lot about this, and this never seemed correct to me. And I've been doing code for close to 25 years now, for over 20 years. It never seemed correct to me that there is a strong relationship between math and coding. And there are a couple of papers published in the recent years about just on this topic, to figure out if people with better math skills are better at learning programming, or if people who are better with linguistic skills, language skills, better at learning programming. And the results are, while programming is a task that basically needs your entire brain to work, like all the functional locations and cores in your brain are actually working when you're solving a programming problem. So it's not particularly math, or it's not particularly language. It requires a coherent working of your brain. I think the result of a paper is students coming from linguistics background are doing better at learning programming than students coming from a math background. They're learning faster and better. They score better in given the same curriculum and given same exams, they score better. Now, there is I think that there are 2 studies that show this to be the case. And I'm looking forward to another study that kind of debunks this, that's how science grows. But I think this is basically how it works. I strongly think that there's a correlation between being able to express yourself. If you're able to express yourself, and it doesn't have to be written language, it could be a visual language. Like you can be an artist, you can be an art historian, or a political scientist. If you're able to express yourself in any form clearly, I think you're going to be a great software engineer. This could be math, again. This could be, you could be a poet, I don't know. But the most important thing is, are you able to express your ideas clearly? And if you are, then I think you're going to make a great software engineer. And I'm doing this for over 20 years. I have seen many people from different walks of life who have changed their careers to become software engineers. And I can simply say there's no correlation that science students or people with better math skills are better at programming. I haven't seen such a correlation. One of the best programmers I have seen wasn't even a university graduate. So, I think it's an art form, or how I like to put it is, it's a craft. it's just like carpentry or woodworking or any other craft. So there's not one single truth. There are many faces of that. So in that, I think it's more related to the ability to express oneself. And maybe 50 years ago, it was very closely related to math because it was very theoretical, and you were only working with ones and zeros, and everything was about optimizing your algorithms and stuff. Nowadays, we don't care about those that much. There are many fields of engineering or software engineering that don't care about any of these. So you don't really do math. And I'm willing to die on this hill in this battle, defending this point of view, whoever argues otherwise. All right, I'm again sorry if my internet was bad, but this is my experience with programming. And yeah, we have a chef here, Hilmi. He was a participant in our first cohort as well, Coyotiv student. He's now watching us on YouTube, and he is now working as a software engineer. That works. And he's actually working alone in the company. He is the only software engineer taking care of like 30 different projects right out of the bootcamp. And that's a crazy feat. He's struggling a lot, truly, but he is also doing an amazing job. You know, imagine that 30 projects, 30 companies relying on you, and you are armed with what Coyotiv teaches you. That's I'm very, very proud of his achievements.
So he's
Alina?
like still working like at a restaurant.
Yeah.
So same kind of idea, like 30 people came to you.
And they're very demanding, right?
Yeah.
Oh yes, Hilmi is the CTO, the senior architect, and the junior developer all at once.
Yeah.
Alina, is your internet better? Would you like to share your experience with math?
Yeah, I don't know if you are just hearing me well, but I also speak. So I was also checking on the YouTube that on the YouTube everything works, but I don't know what is the problem with the internet connection. Regarding math, no, I didn't like math. I really hate math. I think I just really like algebra in some part. I really like it. But anyway, I didn't even dream I will change my path career and I will handle the logical thinking and maybe algorithmic and also you need some mathematical schema to implement in your project. To be honest, yeah, it's not like you don't need mathematics at all. So you need. But of course, what's important is to have that logical comprehension and the willing to learn. And this will be your guide and your help. And everything can be possible. So when I was starting this path career, someone was encouraging me like this. He was saying to me, "Oh, that car washer success to be a developer. You cannot." Yeah, it was like this. It was like sometime some years ago. So being honest, mathematics can help you, of course, but the most help what you will need is your passion and also you're trained to learn. Yeah. That's it.
I 100% agree. And we are missing one person, and all the Coyotiv folks know who. We're missing Steve. I don't know why he's not in this discussion. Maybe he missed the link. So if anyone could text him the link privately, the Zoom link, maybe he would want to join us. But it's also a blessing because when he's on the stage, he completely destroys the show and owns it and does not let us talk. But Steve said on YouTube, I think one of the reasons the math myth exists comes from the early days of programming, where those that were likely to get involved probably were highly skilled in math and or physics. And perhaps back then it was more of a requirement because of the nature of what was available to programmers back then. Definitely not needed as much now. And as Furkan says, it will now just depend on the application. The programming ecosystem is so big now, there's a place for everyone. That said, being able to count to 10 might be useful. I agree. I agree. I mean, you have to know simple things like 2 squared is 4. 2 to the power of 3 is 8. That kind of math that are very basic, they are useful. And the rest, I'm not sure. I also don't really like math myself. I don't.
So it's not always like so not people.
Yeah, I don't know. But math also is not my favorite topic. And I'm an electronics engineer. I'm not a computer scientist. I graduated from electronics engineering. Is anyone here from computer science? I don't think anyone is from the computer science program here. Don't get me wrong. I was a teaching assistant in computer science department. I did it for several years. I was a professor in computer science department. I gave a lecture, a full-on master's lecture on front-end engineering for an entire term. So, but I'm an electronics major, and my master's is also in electronics. So, you know, even though that's the case, I don't like math. I think it's, and I know it's in the name, but I think it's very abstract. I know it's the purpose of math, but I find it too abstract. I like it better when I know what we're dealing with and why we're doing it. I like it much better. For example, my master's is in signal processing. I love playing with signals, changing the audio signal of a guitar. I love it. I'm doing it in analog circuitry, in digital circuitry, in software, in analysis. I can write machine learning code for that. That's perfect. I love it. When it comes to solving math problems, I suck. I don't understand any of those. I don't know. Brains are different and diverse, and we need to accept that. And fortunately, software engineering works for everybody. But anyway, the next myth, I
don't
think
believe you. I'm
what?
I think you are very capable to a very hard mathematical problem. I know you. So I know you are also humble, but it's not like this. So I'm pretty sure you are knowing how to solve the very hard mathematical problem.
Hear me when I say, I know how to write machine learning algorithms. I know how to write the code for certain equations. I suck really hard at math and I don't like it. I think even these are two separate things. Like I can create neural networks. I can write code for that. I did that. I still suck at math.
Arman,
yeah.
I think God created math so that you suck at one thing. I mean, if you suck.
Well, I think I suck at many more things.
You cannot be good at everything, Arman. So that's.
I'm not. I'm not remotely good at everything. I think I'm only good at talking. I can say that I'm good at talking, and that's pretty much it. I'm not even very good at programming, but here we are. The next myth comes from Ruth, and Ruth said, engineers are represented as nerdy guys lurking in a corner, in a dark corner, typing with their hoodies on, and you know, dark environments, no light, no human connection. Is that correct? Let's, I don't know, who would like to go?
Don't get me wrong, but I say, don't get me wrong. I love a nerdy guy sitting in a corner in a dark room. But
yeah, who doesn't?
I think there's more than that as well. I think that's not the only way. Is what I'm learning. Right?
Yeah, I think you have right. But also I didn't I didn't saw a female which are software developers or QA engineer or architects, whatever, like going to the high heels or looking for the very precious jewelry. And yeah, we can say it's kind of type of the persons which are like to do coding or something technical. So we can also identify this typology of persons. Yeah, not all of them were just staying in a very secure room, dark room, just drinking a beer or smoking cigarettes and working in like delivery the things, So, but also on the other hand, we cannot see people which are earning money from software. They are just fashionist, influencer, whatever.
Yeah. Well, okay. I would like to go next. My experience is I have seen in my entire software career, I have seen a couple of guys like that, lurking in the corner, definitely with a hoodie, doesn't talk to people, likes dark rooms. But all of them, I mean, okay, not all of them. Some of them were okay, good, but most of them were bad at programming. Some of them could work alone. If you give them a problem to solve, they can solve that. But I think in a team structure, it doesn't work. In fact, I have a friend, I don't want to name them here. They were so senior and they were such a great programmer that they became the highest ranked programmer in their company of like 200 people, whatever, 200 software engineers. And then they had to be promoted to a managerial position. And they became a manager for about 2 years. They had a team, but they didn't like it. They didn't like being a manager. Their direct reports didn't like them being a manager. And they were demoted, or they changed positions back to an individual contributor, and they became an individual contributor again. So I think being a team player is more important in software. If you are that nerdy guy lurking in the corner, that's fine. I haven't seen many of them, and the ones I saw were not good. So I can say that movie representation is wrong, at least in my experience. I think better software engineers are people who are also better at human connections. If you can genuinely talk to someone, understand them, and if you can hold a conversation with someone, then you are more likely to understand your users, your friends, your managers, your team members as well, and work with them to create something of value, of bigger value than what you would do alone. So that has been my experience.
But there's a confirmation bias there, in the sense that you haven't seen the truly successful programmers that are hiding because they are so good at hiding. Right?
Nice. Nice. Yes, but if we cannot see them, it doesn't matter. Alina?
And I think it's about mentality. How the people are perceived with people like the developers or the people which are working in IT, measurement or something technical, because here also in Germany, for example, which it's assumed it's a very East European country with open mentalities and so on. We can pretend it's like this, it's not like this. So you all the time you are associated. Where you are working, what do you are? You are a QA engineer or you are a software engineer, and they associate the image you are just earning money, but also you are associated your image. You are a smart guy. We stay a little bit hide and work a lot, and you are very smart. It's like this kind of association. And I think this is just the mentality they cannot accept. Maybe you are normal. You like to drink beer, going out. You are very friendly. Yeah, you don't wear a t-shirt for 100 years. Yeah. So it's not like this. So, but all the time, of course, this came also with a little bit of respect. Oh, you are working as a software engineer. Wow, it's something like you are a doctor. So I think it's also about the mentality of the people, how they are perceived, all the things.
Yeah. Okay. The next myth is writing code is all we do. Writing code is all programmers do. Programmers write code from morning till night, 7/24. We don't do anything else.
It's like wake up, eat, write code, go to sleep, repeat. It's not like this. So yeah, it's like everyone knows how many lines of code are we are writing every day. Some of the time we are reading the documentation, trying to solve solution, speaking with your colleagues, because coding is not about resolving problems, it's also about communication. And trying to debug things, speaking with the project manager who didn't understood how the implementation should work, and so on and so on. So you are not so productive. You are not writing just code. You are doing so many things in the same day.
Yep. Neslihan?
I was actually thinking about the critical thinking part of the software engineering, about writing code all day. I mean, if you combine these two, like the writing code all day and critical thinking, that doesn't add up. I mean, to think critically and to be able to judge the problem in as many aspects as you can. You also need to be exposed to, expose yourself to other things that are going around yourself. It may be, your family, news, art, science, everything. So I think to solve the problem in software, we also need to focus on other topics that are going around ourselves, and we should try to, enrich our perspectives and try to look at the subject from as many different aspects as we can. It's my observation in Coyotiv.
Okay, Furkan?
Yeah, I wouldn't say the entire software engineering is about writing code all the time. Well, maybe in the beginning of a project, we are really, we call it greenfield project. So we rush and we write too much code, but in certain cases, we also need to write documentations. And in fact, as the others said, we need to solve problems. We need to debug the code, existing code. We should go over it and try to find what's wrong. That actually makes a huge time that I spent in my daily job. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's only about writing code. It's also communication, like related to previous topic. We need to have like daily talks, weekly discussions about our progress.
I think Okay, wait. Before I talk, I would like to ask Rahel what she thinks about this myth about software engineers. Do you think they're writing code all day long?
I never thought it's all software engineers do. I always thought it's part of it. But I have to say, I never had an idea what's the other part.
Yeah.
I kind of understand debugging and going through the current code as coding.
Oh, I see.
But it's probably because I am so like have abstract ideas of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So.
So I think both are software engineering, but debugging it's really difficult. It's a huge challenge of your ego, of your existence all the time. There's a problem, you cannot solve it. The problem will beat you. And it's like watching a movie, like a Spider-Man movie. You know Spider-Man will not die at the end. You know Spider-Man will always win. And you know you're always gonna win. Biden is so, but still you go through that journey, that story, and you're like, I can't, what's wrong with this thing? Why can't I solve it? And I think we spend a majority of our time debugging or trying to understand what's going on in the code and not writing new code. I would love to do that.
I remember,
you know?
I remember that when we tried to implement a chatbot and we have problem, and it was like, oh my dear, we'll spend all the day trying to do this and we will not succeed at the end. So yeah, it's sometimes it's like this. So maybe it's not about just writing code, and also it's about taking a rest, go to sleep.
Yes.
Think about, relax, and of course the solution will come.
Yeah, and I think fundamentally they are different. Debugging is more like problem solving. You have to be like a detective or a hunter, whereas writing code from scratch is, or writing code all the time is like, yeah, you're fine. You're just typing. You're writing code. You're expressing yourself. You're not trying to solve a problem. You're expressing yourself. You're forming sentences and instructions, and you know what you want to write. There's no ambiguity there. So it's kind of different.
You have to be like a scientist, right?
When debugging,
when you do debugging.
Yes, exactly.
So especially
Trial
if
and
it's
error.
somebody else's code, right? If it's a brownfield project, it's like the nature. God created the nature, then you are trying to decipher it, right? In the first, if you are writing the code, you are the author. It's easy.
Yeah. Okay, one last myth before we go. Rahil, do you have any suggestions? A myth about software engineering or software engineers?
I don't know if it can be considered a myth, but like being too old to begin this or too old to get into the whole market.
Nice. This is another one I love the most. Yes. Like there's a myth that software engineers cannot be older than 40. 40 is too much for software engineers, current software engineers, and you can never start software engineering at 40 years old, 50 years old. It's impossible. Yes, this is a huge myth. What? I couldn't hear.
I was saying, look at Steven. I was saying, look at Steven.
Yeah, Steve is joining us from an ancient time and land where there were hobbits and magic.
I mean, let alone Steve. I am 23 years old, and some of my friends still tell me like, you are so old, like you should have started in the high school, and it's still too old. I mean,
Yeah.
even when I'm 23, I should have started when I was born.
Yeah, you should have started 30 years ago, Neslihan.
Yeah,
You're so
yeah.
late. You're so late. You cannot start and become a software engineer.
Yeah.
It's weird. Alina, how old were you when you started software engineering?
I cannot say. I can say I was 20.
Yeah, more than 20. Okay.
Yeah. So
Ruth?
it's like I don't know if this is something particular to software engineering, but also I believe everything you can restart and start whatever age you want. But of course, some particulars like physical problems, yeah, you cannot, your body is not like willing to deal with the things. But in software engineering, I think everyone can start whatever the age is. Like,
Yeah.
you just need to be lucid and have a brain willing to learn, and a mentor like Arman.
Ruth, what do you think about age?
Well, I think this is also a question that I had too, because I left school quite a while ago, and like I think the most people that I know who are programmers, yeah, are all starting straight from high school or studying it at
Yeah.
university, and I'm coming at it from a very different stage in life. But I think I think with perhaps being older, you have the advantage of you have other experiences, which hopefully you can bring to it, and you've tried and tested a few other things in life,
Yeah.
roles and jobs. Perhaps you know yourself more, you know how you learn, and so if you know how you perhaps know how to learn, like maybe at school it was like you've got maths here and physics here, and you're like, I don't know. And then perhaps you know yourself a bit better, and you know what you like, you know what you want to go after. So I mean, yeah, I'm kind of hoping that it's still something I can pick up as well. Yeah.
So long story short, because I love spoilers, is age does not matter at all. When you start software engineering, it doesn't matter at all, because it's a craft and you can pick it up anytime you like. It's not like handiwork. You don't need like your fingers. You don't need to train your fingers in a special way from birth or from like when you're like 5 years old. It's not like that. It's a craft in your brain. So as long as you can think, you can start a software engineering career. And I have had countless students and mentees who started programming coming from, again, different areas in life at the age of 30, 40, 50, 55. I know someone who was not one of my students, but I know someone who started programming at the age of 78. And they're doing pretty okay. Because most of it is comprised of transferable skills. If you know how to express yourself, and if you know how to think of a system and how to design a solution to anything, it could be anything, even crosswords, then you can be a software engineer. It's not related to any other aspects. Alina? Is it my internet again? I think it's my internet. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we do hear you. I think it's
Okay.
Alina's connection.
All right. Okay.
So I think I agree with you, Arman. I mean, age most of the time doesn't matter. Of course, there might be some things that might be affected by age, right? For example, I have a son, right? So, for example, he decreases the time left to me, right? So if I hadn't known programming, it would be harder for me to pick up a new skill, right? So it's not only software engineering. Like if I want to learn how to play the guitar, I have less time. So maybe that's one thing. But then after a while, when the kids grow up, you might get more time. But I think this advice applies to most of the things in life, like learning something. Unless you want to be in the, let's say, top 10%, 1%, it's like the Pareto principle, right? Like we are not going to claim that anyone is going to be John Carmack starting at age 50, right? But you don't need to be.
Yes.
So I think most things we discussed can be summarized as follows. People have these mental barriers that are put up by some people or their own, right? Which are not that realistic, and but for example, that might be very real without some external help, right? How are you? Because most people, if you want to learn on your own and then you get stuck, and then 1 day passes, 2 day passes, and then you give up, right? So that's the same with any skill. Like if I want to learn the guitar, and if I'm on my own, I will give up. I mean, I don't need to be Joe Satriani. I can learn the basics. I can be good enough, and I think being good enough is enough. Like we have to be honorable people, but we don't need to be perfect. There's this idea again, like programmers are like this, programmers are like this. Again, this idea of perfection is what I think all of us object to. Right?
Exactly.
Like because perfection is good, we want to strive for it, but then if it becomes barriers for you, this group of people cannot code, cannot do it. It's something.
And this is exactly why we have this software newbies hangout, because we want to show that it's okay being a newbie and you can start anytime you want. We want to destroy those imaginary barriers that people put in place, that people reinforce, both from within inside software engineering and outside. Like software engineering is hard, you have to be a genius, the walls are so high, the stakes are so high. It's not true. That's not the case. You can do it. A lot of people do it, and just being good enough is good enough. And there is enough place for everyone to make a living in software engineering as well. And it doesn't require you to be a genius to become a software engineer. These preconceptions about software engineering are so wrong that it forced us to create the Software Newbies Hangout, and especially this broadcast of common myths of software engineering. And I think we're going to continue doing this. If you liked it so far, if you all think like, yeah, this is not a bad time of spending a Thursday evening, I might join again. I would like to keep doing this with a bigger and a bigger audience, and shed some light into the darker corners of software engineering and make it more available and accessible to everybody, because we deserve it and we can do it. All right. We are a little bit over time. As always, as with me, I'm very sorry for the internet connection, and I talk a lot. So thank you for being with us tonight. Rahil, I hope you liked it, and I hope you...
Thank you. Yes, it was awesome. I'm so happy I joined.
I hope you consider coming back. I think we're going to keep doing these sessions, and until we meet next time, have a good evening, good weekend, and take good care under COVID terms. I know it's very difficult. We are at the end of the tunnel. We're gonna survive, and we're gonna get back to our normal lives. And you know, this is gonna be a dark memory in our lives that we don't have to think about in the future. So hold on for a little bit longer. We're getting through this, and yeah, enjoy your lives as much as possible. I'm gonna see you later. Have a good evening and good night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.